Okay, so quick recap. User account, administrator account can do anything, while a user account has got limited access. And that limitation depends on the administrator. The administrator will give the user accounts their roles and stuff that they do have access to. Then the next one, firewalls. So firewalls does have something to do with security, but the part of a firewall, if we take our school as a computer system, the guards right in front that stays in that house and they're just there the whole day, they are like the firewall. So they will determine who can come into the school and who can go out. So like if any of you wanted to go out just in the middle of the school day, they would stop you from going out because you're not allowed to. While if other random people wanted to come in that's not allowed to, they will block them as well, say you're not allowed to come into the school. So that's sort of our firewall. Firewall is that software that manages the network communication. So it only looks at the network port. It doesn't look at your USB port. So if you put a memory stick or something in there with a virus on it, will just come in, nothing will happen. Or the firewall won't check it. But the firewall manages that part. Okay, so the firewall manages the network port to see which applications and users want to send information out and which applications or users want to send information into your computer. So it manages your computer of your network connection. But they are just there at the gate. So if, let's say, one of you come in with your dodgy stuff inside your bag and you get through that system, let's say you want to sell space muffins, you need to fundraise. So if you get past those guards, let's say they didn't check nicely the bags, and you're inside now. You can go, you can set up a store, because remember, they're only them. You can set up a store, big banner, space muffins for sale, and sell. Nobody, they won't care, because they just see who comes in, who goes out. If you're a legitimate person that needs to come into the school, they'll allow you in, and then what you do on the inside, they don't care. That's what a firewall does. That's why we also have an antivirus software. Antivirus software, that's a software like the guards walking around. So they've got a list of applications and viruses which they must block, and then they look for suspicious behavior. So they will then, if they see the store, take you to the principal, maybe expel you and whatever. So that's what the antivirus does. So the antivirus goes through the system looking for suspicious behavior or blocked or like viruses that's been identified, quarantine them, get them out of the system. While the firewall just checks your communication through the network port, in and out of the computer system. Okay, all good. Okay. Then on page 147, they talk about backups. Anybody sort of got an idea of a backup? What is a backup? Backup, nobody heard of it before. Is
basically making a duplicate version of the file.
yeah. Okay, so backup is making a copy of the files so that when you lose your files, you can just recover it back. You get two different kinds of backups. You get your full backup, which just takes everything and backs it up to a system. And you can do that every now and again if you want to. Or what some companies do is they do a full backup and then they do an incremental backup from there on. What the incremental one does, it just looks at which files changed and then just backs them up again. So you don't need to do a full one the whole time. But it depends on the company itself. Do you think is backups important or not? Waste of time? Because I think those of you with computers, who's got computers here at home? Chunk. Hey, in the other class was just 3 with 3 textbooks. Yeah, lots of textbooks and lots of computers. I don't know, something looks better. In any case, so how many of you have backed up before? How many of you have done a backup? Okay, that's good. I've never backed up before, but I'll take you for that. So, but the idea behind it, most people like us, we don't do backups. Because if you lose your stuff, you can just download it again, install it again, whatever software you bought, you can just do those things again from the disks you've got or from wherever you bought it or whatever. But for a company, it's very important. Imagine how the school, something happens, our financial system, everything is lost. So now, tomorrow when the school needs to send out statements, they just send statements to everybody, all of you need to pay all of your school fees again. Some of your parents will be very unhappy because they might have already paid for this year's grade 10 and next year's grade 10. While there's other parents that still owes money for the past 3 years grade 10 that you're trying now. So they will be very happy because now they're benefiting from this. So that's the main thing. And for all companies, company basically needs to do backups. Because if they lose their financial record, it could make the whole company fail basically. Because if you can't, those of you with accounting knows debtors and creditors. So if you don't know who owes you money and who you owe money to, and you lose that information, your company could fail in that one day just by losing that information. So for companies like that, backups are very important. A chunk of these backups, they say they make the backup on the cloud. Firstly, what is that? And why can't I just make let's say I want to back up my laptop. I can make a backup and then just keep it on the laptop. Why don't I want to do that? And then what is this online one? Who wants to try it? 2 questions. What is online backups? And why don't I just make a backup of my laptop and keep it on the laptop? Yes.
If you look at the backup on the laptop, it's basically not backed up because it just copies the same data and everything. So you can use if the laptop gets damaged or broken all the time.
Yeah. So if somebody steals my laptop breaks, falls, whatever, as soon as I lose my data, I lose my backup as well. So it didn't help at all. So what is this online backup they talk about? Yes.
Online backup, if you got something online, you can access it anytime on any device.
So what does the online mean? Internet storage. Okay, so online backup means the backup you create, you store on the internet somewhere. So maybe when I talk about this, maybe let's just so that we clarify this. When I say I store something on the internet somewhere, where would that be? Just randomly? Or where physically does it actually go? Data servers, which are like in Johannesburg or big cities, they might have like rooms where there's lots of computer cabinets with lots of servers, with lots of hard drives inside, and then when you back up something to the cloud, you actually just take it to that company's server somewhere on a hard drive there. So the benefit of that is even if, let's say you go on holiday somewhere, a meteor comes, takes out Mpangeni, you can still, wherever you are, just buy a new computer, get your storage from the cloud, and then go on with your business as if nothing happened. So that's a nice part of that. Then page 148, they talk about installing software. You can have a look at that, and uninstalling is all nice stuff. Page 149, they talk about plug and play. I want you to add a word there. Okay, there's a word that's not in your textbook that I want you to add to your textbook or to your notes, and that is hot swappable. Hot like H-O-T, swappable. S-W-A-P-A-B-L-E. Hot swappable.
Next to plug and play.
Yeah, so it's going to be, we're going to look at the 2 terms, and you must know the difference between them. These 2 terms, you're going to need to know up until grade 12. So if you sort of make it understandable for yourself, you're going to see it again next year, you'll see it again in grade 12, and then you'll just know it off by heart. So it's 2 important words. Plug and play and hot swappable. We need to know the difference and where, what, why. Alright, so I think plug and play, some of you would have heard about it and something, so who can take a guess? Shot in the dark, what is plug and play?
It's when you plug in the device that is displayed on the screen.
Very good, very close. So the important words we need there. First one is automatic detection. And then the second part is it looks for the drivers. Okay, so two keys that when I ask you to explain, plug and play or whatever, automatic detection and it looks for the drivers. Before I go on, I want to do this drivers. What are drivers? Who've heard about computer drivers? Those of you with like playing games on computers, you have to update your graphics card drivers continuously. What are those things? Oh, and not that. Alright, so drivers is software that allows the computer, like the operating system, to communicate with hardware. So, sort of the way you can understand it, each device you've got works in its own language. But you have to help the computer, the operating system, Windows. You have to help them talk in the right language to that device. So imagine like my printer talks in German. Then I have to give my operating system a German dictionary so that he knows how to communicate with that one. And if we get another video camera or whatever, the camera might talk in French. So then I need to give my computer a French dictionary so that he can talk with that video camera. And that's what a driver is. A driver is software that allows your computer to communicate with the hardware device. Alright, so plug and play. It automatically detects new hardware and then it goes and looks for the drivers. It doesn't necessarily have it. Sometimes a lot of the drivers it comes with your operating system. So the computer will just find it there like a library. Like Windows will have a library with lots of drivers inside. It will go look, see if it's inside there. If it gets it, installs it, just works. Like a memory stick. When you plug it in, it says find new hardware, and then it says another pop-up comes, ready to use. What it did in that few seconds was it detected the new hardware, and then it went to look for the drivers. Found the drivers, installed the drivers, and then told you it's ready to use. That's what happened in those few seconds. With our other word now, hot swappable. Hot swappable allows us to add and remove a hardware device while the computer is on. And that's why some people get confused between the two. Because if you think of a memory stick, you agree I can add it to the computer and remove it while the computer is on. That is thanks to hot swappable. But once I add it, that part of the computer that tells me new hardware found, that's thanks to plug and play. So if you think of something like a graphics card, all of you know what a graphics card is, sort of. A graphics card is an expansion card. Remember, man showed us the motherboards? Now, just like the motherboard, there's expansion cards we can add. And a graphics card is one of them. So, do you agree? While the computer is on, if I open this tower case now, and I go remove the graphics card, firstly, I'll most probably electrocute myself. Secondly, everything on the inside will short circuit. Okay, so a graphics card is not hot swappable. I cannot add it and remove it while the computer is on. But it does have plug and play, because when you add a new graphics card, if you put the computer on, it will automatically tell you new hardware found. And it will try to install the software for you. That's because the graphics card is plug and play, but it's not hot swappable. But anything you can add and remove is hot swappable. Okay, very good. Okay. Then on page 150, there is a word, disk defragmentation. So fragmentation is the problem, and defragmentation is the solution to the problem. So I'm going to pause this now because I'm going to explain it on the board. Alright, then we're on page 154, our next chapter. And the first word there, they talk about modular software. Now, actually, when we did hardware, there was a word called modular design. Have any of you heard about modular design before, or then there's modular software that wants to take a guess? Okay, I didn't think so. Alright, so I'm going to start with the modular design. Goes with hardware. So, our computer, like you see it here, our personal computer. This is modular design. Because to agree with this computer, if you don't like the screen, just go buy another screen. Swap them out. If the hard drive is too small, you go buy another hard drive, put it in, sort it. If you don't like the CPU, if you don't like the RAM, buy more RAM, buy other CPU, put it in, sort it. Because it's modular design. So we can add and remove components to best customize the device. So the device is made up out of lots of smaller individual components. And that's what modular design is. Something that's not modular design, like your phone, it's also a computer. But if I don't like my camera on my phone, can I just go buy another camera and put it in? No, you probably just need to buy another phone. And if this phone is the 32 gigabyte storage, but I want a 64 gigabyte storage, can I just go buy more storage and put it in? No, you have to buy the other version of the phone. So a phone is not modular design. If you don't like what you've got there, even if it's just one component, you have to go buy a whole new phone to fix that problem. But with a computer, you can interchange parts to best suit what you want. So that's why it's modular design. So understanding that, what do you think modular software means? Who wants to take a guess? Yes.
Software that you can change situations for
Close. So it is software that can be adjusted or added onto with other small programs. Examples, those of you that do play games, there's things they call mods. When you install a mod that gives you like other people or other maps or other things, that is modular software. So it's a small piece of program you add that changes your program you've got. Those of you, a majority of our browsers, Internet Explorer, Firefox and them, you get stuff they call plugins. You get plugins that allows you to download YouTube clips. You get plugins that help you convert files. Those plugins also are modular software. So on itself, that mod or that plugin, if you just have that, you can do absolutely nothing with it. But adding it to like the host software, then they actually have nice features they can give you. So that's this modular software. Making programs that will just add on to other programs to make them better. Okay. Then the rest you can read, all nice stuff to read. Then we go to chapter 3.1, networks. First part there, what is a network? I think a lot of you, if I ask, have you heard about networks? Yes. You know what it is? Yes. What is it? I don't know. Okay, so who wants to try for us? Who wants to try and put a network into words? Yes.
Network. Like before, when you would call someone else and then over the network.
Okay, so it's close-ish. The important parts, I'm going to do this with, on page 162, they talk about the components of a network. So we'll jump to the components part first. So, like you said now, you need to have more than one device. Her phone and her friend's phone. So you need to have at least more than one device. I'm saying device because it could be a computer, it could be a laptop, could be a cell phone, could be a printer, whatever. So you need more than one device connected to each other with a certain medium. Okay, she said cellular network. That's one of the mediums we can use. Okay, we call mediums. Mediums are the thing that connects our two devices. And then the other third piece, for a network you need three things. You need one or more than one device, you need the medium, and then you need a thing they call the NIC, N-I-C, network interface controller. That is the part of your device that allows it to connect to a network. So for the cell phone, that piece of circuitry, whatever that makes you be able to connect to a Wi-Fi, is a NIC. That part that allows you to connect to the cellular network, the antenna part, is a NIC. On the computer itself, that place where the cable plugs into, that is the NIC. So the NIC is that piece of the device that allows you to connect to a network. So you need two devices or more. Each of them needs to have a NIC, and then they must be connected with a medium. Then you've got a network. So your network is just a collection of devices connected to each other with a certain medium. Okay, so that's what a network is, that's that. So, reasons for a network is the same thing as advantages of a network. So what do you think? What is the advantages / use of a network? Why do we want networks? Why do we need it? Okay? To communicate. Faster communication is one. Okay, what else? Who plays online gaming? Right, so that means for leisure. Okay, to relax. That's why we need these networks for relaxation, for leisure. In the old days, every single computer needed to have their own printer. But now we can share resources. So we can share hardware. Now we just need one printer for this whole class. And then, what else? Okay, you can have better security because now one person, the administrator, can actually manage what everybody does. So there can be better security. Then just like I said, we can share hardware. We can also share software. Software can be shared because we can now, I can put stuff on the server and everybody can use those applications on the server. But it's also centralization of data, meaning we can store data. I can put stuff on the server. You know, when I go to CAT server, I put it there. All of you can get it from there. Everybody knows what it is. So that's a centralization of data. All the data is stored in one place. So it's easier to manage. Okay, so you can read through all that stuff. There's all different reasons why we want networks. Some negatives. Why do you think what is now bad about this networks we get now? Not all just fun and games. There's some problems as well. Yes.
So if they have, like, if someone has the administrator account, they can hack all of the.
Alright, so firstly, hacking or stealing of information is easier now. Because I mean, in the old days, those if you watch a Western, the guy has to get on his horse, take his guns, ride to the bank to go rob the bank, and then ride back to wherever he wants to hide with the money. Nowadays, it could be some small boy sitting in a garage in America, and then they can rob all the banks all across the world. Okay, so it's much easier now for criminals just to do that, and with that, there's that anonymity part. Because now he's so far away, nobody knows who they are, who did what, and they can steal and break into whatever they want. So it's that whole part. It's easier to steal information, it's easier to get into places. I mean, the place can be Fort Knox with thick walls and all burglar bars and army guys protecting it. And then one guy that can't even hold up a gun can rob the place. Alright, so that's downsides. Other things is like viruses. Viruses can just spread how they want to. Okay, because of the internet. It's so easy now. Because of these networks, it spreads much easier and faster everywhere to do what they want to. Alright, then you can read all the other stuff. Then, okay, we discussed what makes up a network. One of the things that makes up a network is that medium part. Okay, so your media that connects two devices. There's two big umbrellas. One is wired and one is wireless. If we take the wireless one first, give me some examples of wireless mediums we can use to connect devices to each other. Second, Bluetooth is one. What's a Bluetooth? Everybody knows Bluetooth, but then you don't know anything else. Other cars also just knew Bluetooth and then it's gone. Wi-Fi is one. The cellular network, as you mentioned, is one. GPS, so a satellite is another signal, yes? You get your infrared, you get, what's the other one I just thought of now? There's one called WiMAX. It's the same as Wi-Fi, it's just for longer distances, and it's a bit more secure. Yeah, that's about it. But then there's lots of other ones that uses radio waves. You get some companies with those big dishes that also send signals across different things. If we go wired, there's lots of wired ones, but there's two main ones we want to work with. Who can think of some wired options for media? The types of wires we use to connect devices to create a network. Okay, not HDMI. Okay, what is the proper name for a LAN cable? LAN cable is correct, but what's the proper name for it? It's not a LAN cable, it's not an Ethernet cable. Both is right. UTP. Okay, UTP stands for unshielded twisted pair. Okay, we'll look at them. That's the one. What is the other one? There's much more, but I want to focus on one. You'll see if you drive around town, everywhere you get these Vodacom tents. They want to sell you something with their type of cable they're using. Fiber is the other one. Alright, so that's our two main ones. Fiber and UTP. You'll see it is on your page 164. If we think of the two types of cables now, technically, what is the difference between them? In the way they transmit data. Who sort of knows? You can just say the one. What does one of them use to transfer data? UTP or fiber? Any ideas? No idea. Alright, so UTP cables, these ones. UTP, those of you that don't know, these cables we've got here now. These grey ones, connects all. If you look in that cabinet, all those grey ones, even the yellow and red ones you can see, all of them are UTP cables. What they've got on the inside, they've got copper wires on the inside, and they use electricity to send the signal. So what does fiber do? Yes. Okay, so they use light. Fiber optic cables uses light. That's why fiber is much faster, because it can communicate at the speed of light. Well, especially those with physics knows, even copper is still a resistance for electricity. So electricity goes relatively slow in comparison with light through these cables. So that's why our UTP cables are slower and fiber optic cables much faster. If we think of cost, which one is cheaper, which one is more expensive? Say again? Okay, so your UTP cables cheaper, fiber optic much more expensive. We just said speed. On page 165, there's a table there explaining, looking at some problems we could experience with cables. You need to know that. If we get time, I'll come back to it, but I think we're going to run out of time, so I'm not going to do that yet. Okay, then on page 166, they talk about different types of networks. Our first one is a LAN network. What is a LAN? Well, how do you differentiate? The other one on the right hand side is a WAN. Think of, you can think of the difference. Okay, so any guesses? Yes.
Please repeat the question.
Okay, so we get LAN. There's actually a lot more, but for now we're just looking at two: a LAN and a WAN. LAN, WAN. Difference between them.
A LAN is network that you can do, network that connects computers, like the computers that are around the administration, and a WAN can connect to laptops like all over the world.
Very close. Okay, so LAN, the key thing to remember for LAN is inside a building. LAN is inside a building. Your WAN, wide area network, is for inside a country. The other one, the bigger one, is a GAN, which is a global area network. That's the internet that goes worldwide. Alright, then there's other ones as well that I don't want to waste your time on now. There's a PAN, like a personal area network, just for yourself. And you get a MAN, which is metropolitan area network, which is only for a city. So all of them determines the size. So for you, LAN, inside a building, WAN, inside a country, GAN, global, worldwide. Okay, then on page 168, we get two types of networks. You get your client-server network and your peer-to-peer network. Alright, so with the client-server one, that's what we've got in this class. So the two computers on the side there, they are our servers. So those computers are in charge of a resource inside this class. They determine who can log in, what's your username and passwords, and they remember all that, and they determine who can use these computers basically. So that is your client server. So that's a server, and all these other computers are clients. So they get resources from the server, and the server is in charge of something. You get different kinds of servers, like a print server will be in charge of the printer, and you get a file server that is in charge of the hard drives. That will just, who can say what, when, where, and stuff like that. So you get different kinds of server, but the server depends or gives resources to the clients. The other option, the peer-to-peer one, is like when a few friends come together, they want to play computer games together or whatever, and they connect the computers. So then there's not one computer that's sort of in charge of the rest. All is just equal. And that's your peer-to-peer network. So peer-to-peer, all the computers, all the devices are seen as equals. While in the client server, the server is in charge of a resource, and the client needs to gain access through the server to that resource. On page 169, there's a nice table. Just learn like 2 or 3 of them. You don't really need to learn everything, but 1 or 2 is good. Then all nice stuff. And then I'm just going to skip ahead a bit. Not that the other stuff's not important, but I want to quickly get to something before the bell goes. We'll see where the bell's going to hit me. I'm jumping to page 176. When we look at an email address, what is email address? Basically got 4 pieces generally. What's the first part before the @ What is that normally? Your username. Okay, so it's the name you want to give yourself. So your username is normally before the @ What is the first piece directly after the @ sign? Service provider. So the service provider, if you look at if you've got what at Gmail, that means Gmail is giving you the service of email. You got your email address from Gmail, so that's why they are your service provider. They're providing you with that service. So directly after the @ is your service provider. Who gave you that email address? So it's a Gmail or Yahoo or for EveryHost or whatever. Then you get a full stop, and then what's the first? Okay, the .com is the exception. I'll talk about that just now. But if you don't have a .com, you'll have a .co.za or .org.za or a .gov.za. What is that .co or .org or .za? What is that first piece for? Say again? Okay, it's your type of company or type of organization. So .co is a company. .org is a non-profit organization. So that will be like your SPCAs and then that works without making profit. Your .gov is for government and so forth. At the bottom of page 176, there's a list of them for you. Then what is that last piece? The .za. Okay, your location, your country. So on top of page 177 is all examples there for you. .za is South Africa, and then you get all your others. The .sa is Saudi Arabia, so it's not us. And your US is United States and so forth. Alright, then, okay, because the bell didn't catch us yet, I'm going to quickly just jump back a bit. On 172, types of electronic communication we get. One of them is emails, which we just discussed now. Another one is social networking sites. Remember, electronic communication anywhere where we can communicate. And a lot of people use, who can give me an example of a social networking site? Yes. What? Reddit, yeah. Instagram, Facebook, all those things. You get online chats as well. You get instant messaging, SMS, MMS, video conferencing, and all those things. Right at the bottom there, page 173, that VoIP should not be there. Okay, VoIP is not a type of application to facilitate e-communication. VoIP, as it says in brackets, is a voice over internet protocol. So, do any of you know what a protocol is? Okay, so the definition of a protocol is a set of rules for communication. That's what a protocol is. Set of rules for communication. So what this VoIP does, voice over internet, so it allows us to talk like a telephone call over the internet and the rules for that. So your video conferencing they've got there uses VoIP. So VoIP is actually just the protocol we use so that we can communicate over the internet, but with voice. So if you do your WhatsApp calls, if you do your Skype calls, whatever video, if you use Zoom, if your parents use Zoom, Discord, those of the 2 or 3 of you that join our Discord lessons, is they use VoIP. Okay, so that is to allow voice to go over the internet. It's just a protocol that allows us to do that. And then there's the bell. Okay, so as I said, I did not just cover what's in the test, but I covered most of the important stuff.